Hey, what's going on YouTube? Millennial Trader here from the Millennial Trader YouTube channel. Today is February 16th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day to those of you that celebrated. Today we're going to be looking at 5 coins. Obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple. We're going to take a look at Sui-Coin and obviously the infamous Trump coin that's been the talk of a bunch of headlines over the past number of weeks. And then, of course, I'm going to do my typical high-level overview of the crypto market space, take a look at the dominance chart and fear and greed index. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so again, I typically like to look at the dominance chart just to get a sense of risk on or risk off in the market, because generally when Bitcoin has a tendency to have dominance, that generally means it's a flight to safety in terms of the crypto market space. And obviously we can see here currently we're at 59, almost 60% of the entire crypto market universe. So that's notable because to me that indicates one, there is a risk-off appetite whereby most people in the market are gravitating towards Bitcoin versus anything in the altcoin space or even in Ethereum as well. And interestingly enough, right here, this orange line is where the Bitcoin dominance currently stands, and we see that most of the underperformance, or where assets are being liquidated, you can say, or there's just a sense of risk off in terms of the appetite. Ethereum has been dropping off, so that's notable. There's a big disparity now between the number one and the number two coin. Whether that results in a potential turn of events in the near future, that has yet to be seen, but obviously, it's something that I'm taking watch of. And then from the altcoin space, basically like anything other than the top 3 to 5 coins, there's been a progressive shift downwards. So we'll see if altcoin season ends up happening at all. But generally, I tend to like to stay within the top 20 coins just for my own risk appetite. I'm not saying that you can't make money in the other space, but you generally have to keep a more watchful eye, and especially with the indicators that I use and the technical analysis tools, I generally have a better sense of direction and where I want to be putting on or taking off trades. So that's just me personally, but good luck to those that are making money in the altcoin space, because you generally have to be quick or have confidence in the the time frame that you're looking at. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Right now, it's still a bullish environment. I would tend to say you want to be long Bitcoin, and me personally, I'm still accumulating a large portion, a large holding in Ethereum, because my call for 2025 is that Bitcoin will outperform Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin from a percentage gain perspective in 2025. Right now it's underperforming, but there's still 10 and a half months before the end of the year. So let's take a look at, let's just go right into the charts. I'm going to focus on Bitcoin first. So give me a second to bring this over. All right, so I continue to repeat in many of my videos that I use a combination of traditional technical analysis tools. Not many, because I find that the more that you put on, it just causes analysis paralysis. But I generally like to use MACD because it's not as easily manipulated in terms of the volatility. You get sense of the overall sentiment of the market from a longer term point of view. And then I typically like to use the Ichimoku clouds, which is Far East indicator. That basically you should be aware of it because half of the entire trading population in the East is using it as their basis of technical analysis. So if they're using it and you're not, it's something that plays to their competitive advantage. And then obviously I use the DeMark indicators, a combination of sequential combo, propulsion, and a few other ones that from time to time I generally like to reference in terms of my overall analysis in the market. So you'll see here 9s and 13s in any particular direction generally mean the conclusion of a trend or the exhaustion point of a particular trend in one direction, in which case you may want to be looking in the opposite direction because that generally means there's a potential turn occurring. And as we see here, it's notable because we've basically been, other than the initial move back here from essentially all of 2024, which had been consolidating for 10 months, after we breached this resistance area, it basically essentially took us to this new area where we have essentially been consolidating for the better part of 3 months now. And people will say, oh well, why are we consolidating in this particular area? Well, I'll tell you, because when you're using the DeMark indicators, there are hidden levels of resistance and support that those of you who are using it will identify in real time when that signal happens. And we're at an interesting point in the market because should we cross below this 95,731 level, that to me would indicate a potential top in the market and would confirm these 9 and 13 signals that have shown up 3 months ago. So I can't explain fundamentally what's going to be the catalyst to drive us one way up or downward, but at some point in time, and it could be relatively soon, we will get an indication as to which way the market is going, and that could potentially result in the Bitcoin dominance chart decreasing, in which case there might be a risk-on appetite for other coins in the space, and that could potentially confirm my thesis in Ethereum. But I'm not fortune telling anything at the moment, but it's something that I'm watching for, and anybody and the hundreds or thousands of institutions that also know about the DeMark indicators are also watching for, and potentially going to fundamentally change their structure of their speculative bets going forward. So, it's something that I'm watching. I had a few other trend lines that I also created just because from a longer term time frame, I like to get a sense of, potentially if something happens, what am I doing next? And I always like to prepare myself for the, I'll call it the worst case scenarios. But that's just me and from my own trading point of view. So this lineup here is a much more shorter time frame because I'm using 2 points that are closer in nature than this one back here from the week of September 2nd, 2024. And yeah, unrelatedly, this trend line happens to line up exactly where this propulsion bearish momentum level is currently playing at. And so that's why I'm saying, it's where we're currently trading is highly important from the overall market sentiment and dynamics, because should we ultimately break bearish and to the downside, then you've essentially trapped 3 months of buyers who have been accumulating positions in Bitcoin, and that would be notable because you have all of these Bitcoin maximalists who have been promoting the coin for months and months, saying that we're going higher to 150, 250, which is possible. Um, and over the long term, I think that's essentially where we're going. But it's important to remain tactical because you could potentially, if we are heading downwards, there are certain signals that you want to be aware of to either exit your position and buy at a lower price, or if you're more of a long-term investor, there are points in time where you want to start average costing into your positions. So it's notable. The other thing that I'm noticing here as well is that MACD has crossed bearish, I guess last week, in which case the signal was actually a little bit earlier than the -1 count that we're currently on. Now that's not to say that this -1 count is the definition of or the indication that we're heading lower, because one, the week hasn't necessarily finished playing out, but we could potentially continue to consolidate in this area for several more weeks, in which case that could push us into February. And we'll see what happens at that point in time. But for me, you still want to be positioned to the upside, because we're still in the process of completing a 13 count to the upside, and so long as we continue to hold this 95,731 level over the next 2 weeks, this count will potentially flip and we could potentially go to the upside. And the reason I say that is because so the sequential indicator looks at the closing price, current price relative to the close 4 bars prior. So 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, this is 4 weeks. So 4 weeks ago, the close was 101,191, and currently, assuming that assuming that we stay at this particular level, obviously we're currently 97,158, which is lower than 101, which is why we have a -1 signal. So again, we could potentially stay in this area and continue to hold above this level, in which case next week again we'll generate a -2, because 97,159 is less than 99,586. But in 2 weeks from now, this is where it could potentially get interesting, because we're currently flirting with the close from the week of January 27th, which is 97,696. So, that's why I'm saying that the price flip could, the close could potentially change, in which case we could potentially have a price flip, and that'll push us back up to this, continue to go up through this trend line up to potentially this 111 level right here, in which case I do believe that's probably where we will potentially top out for 2025, and that's the same area that I mentioned probably 2 months ago, indicating that that's where I believe Bitcoin would potentially top out. But we'll see. That's as far as fortune telling or projecting on the coin that I want to do right now, because anything can change from a fundamental perspective. I'm purely looking at this from a technical and tactical point of view. So that's about it for me in terms of hypothesizing. If I put on the Ichimoku clouds, there's obviously the lagging span, or the lagging line, which is basically the current close projected 26 periods into the past. We still have a lot of space, in which case, it could just potentially continue to consolidate up until we reach these candles over here. So it remains to be seen, kind of what happens. But for the time being, I continue to want to be playing bullish Bitcoin for the potential continuation up to this 111 area. At which point, I'll make a decision, whether I want to exit and buy back at a lower price. The baseline is um, is based on the midpoint of the past 26 candles. And so obviously we're kind of just flattening out right here because, again, we've kind of just been consolidating. And unless we have either a new high or a new low, this line, which is more important than the conversion line, which is based on a moving average much slower, on a much faster time frame of just 9 candles or 9 periods. That's kind of where that's also something that I'm looking at to see if we just continue to flatten out, or again, if we potentially start to have bigger moves going into March. But we'll see where that happens. But at this point in time, uh, you know, there's really nothing more to do other than watch that 95,731 level and see kind of how we position going forward. But I remain bullish Bitcoin for the time being, and we'll see where things play out into March. Okay, so looking at Ethereum, the chart on Ethereum is structurally much different than Bitcoin because we have just recently bottomed out on a -9 count, which could be an indication that Ethereum might start to trail back upwards. But at the same time, I also recognize that we're also still in the process of completing a -13 countdown signal. So, Ethereum in itself is trading in a wide range, and from essentially $4,000 down to this 20, I'll call it $2,200 level. So you're playing with about $800 in a range, and it could it can continue to trade within this range for months into the future. But again, my position has been that for 2025, Ethereum may outperform Bitcoin in a major way. And I say that because if I look at the relative performance of Ethereum to Bitcoin currently, so essentially since the middle of 2022, so you can call it, August or September, that was back here, we generated the +9 signal for the exhaustion of Bitcoin, of Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin. And ever since that signal, Ethereum has just been underperforming Bitcoin for the better part of 2.5 years. So, and what's also notable is that every time we generated a 9, it hasn't had enough follow through for it to rally and potentially reverse. But I am looking at this from a longer term time frame, and if we go back all the way to when this trading platform captured historical data from Bitcoin and Ethereum, there is this support line going back all the way to 2016 that continues to hold. And interestingly enough, we've completed -13 counts, and we're just about at the point of completing a -9 count, which, I'm not necessarily getting my hopes up, but I do believe we're getting to the area of complete exhaustion from a relative performance point of view, that Ethereum may start to outperform Bitcoin going forward. Now, I mean, look, we've had 2 years of over 2 years of underperformance. So it's not like Ethereum is going to, go back to $4,000 once we've hit that -9. But if I'm looking at, outperformance in 2025, and whether it's just for a tactical trade 4 6 months, or if I'm looking at this, over the course of a few years, there could be major outperformance in Ethereum going forward, um, relative to Bitcoin, because a lot less dollar volume needs to now move Ethereum, to push price up further than, say, Bitcoin, where you need, each coin is almost $100,000, so you need multiple billions of dollars now to move Ethereum, as excuse me, Bitcoin, in a major way. But if altcoin doesn't happen, then, I could see the majority of funds that are in the altcoin space come back into Bitcoin, and obviously, that'll just continue to push Bitcoin's overall dominance in the market higher. In which case, there will be continued outperformance of Bitcoin, relative to Ethereum and all of these other coins. But we'll see. I'm still in the camp that we will see Ethereum outperformance in 2025 relative to Bitcoin. And that's kind of how I've been playing this tactically. And I'll continue to accumulate Ethereum at particular points in time, because nothing has suggested to me otherwise. And the fact that we're getting closer to, potentially full exhaustion in Ethereum, we could potentially start to make significant headway back upwards. But that's just my own personal trading style. Longer term, I think you want to continue to own Bitcoin and Ethereum. But right now, me personally, I'm just tactically increasing my Ethereum exposure relative to Bitcoin. I'm not saying that I'm selling my Bitcoin, but I'm adding more to Ethereum relative to Bitcoin. Okay, so Ripple. So Ripple is at an interesting inflection point, because I was talking to a few members, on, I guess, over text message and through Discord. But again, as I continue to say, I believe this 13 signal down here is the low. Like, I don't think we'll ever get back to, this 50-60 cent range, because we had consolidated for essentially 5 years, from 2021 up until the end of 2024. And again, had you identified this signal using the DeMark sequential indicator, that you would have had multiple hundreds of percentage of gains since that point in time. And previously in an episode, I mentioned that I was long in the $2 range. I scaled out at $3.15, and then I literally sold the top here at $3, the previous top of $3.35. Now, do I anticipate that will potentially retest and come back to that area? Potentially. But from a risk reward point of view, you have to start wondering what's suppressing the price, and are there other indications that the altcoin space may not be gathering enough steam as it had been in the past? I think I read somewhere that there's like a million altcoins now, in 2025, versus, I think, in the previous 2 years, where it was like substantially less. So, whether there's a bunch of rug pulls that are occurring in the altcoin space, which is causing all of these smaller coins not to rally, and therefore resulting in Bitcoin's dominance just continuing to over concentrate the trade. I'm not sure. I'm sure some of you who are more fundamentalists and more in tune with the news can explain to me better. But I'm just looking at this from a technical point of view. And what's notable here is I'm just gonna overlay the Ichimoku cloud. So, notice how the Ichimoku cloud, this candle last week, it pierced through the baseline, which is a longer term level of support, but it didn't close below it. So, and that's throughout, I would say, almost all of the coins last week, where there was significant volatility. It pierced through probably a lot of stop levels, both on the upside and the downside. Um, and that could have just been a mechanism for over leveraged longs to get liquidated. And similarly for the shorts, because it just didn't go straight down, it prices went up before ultimately kind of normalizing to where they're currently at. So, um, the overall trend, I would say, is you want to still continue to be bullish. Ripple, again, I think this 60 cent level will never be tested again. Tactically, I would much rather put on new exposure at this $1.94 to 95 level, because I think from a risk reward point of view, you basically you can basically minimize your risk by saying, okay, if we close lower than the most recent low of this $1.75, then I will exit my position at that point in time. But to put on new positions right now, I think it's higher risk because you're subject to potentially almost $1 of drawdown if we retest those levels again. And the fact that we're at a -2 count currently, to me, that's a little bit cautionary. Not to say that we're going to continue to play this out to a -9, but again, if I'm in the position of trying to manage risk, preserve capital, and be a little bit more picky with my entry points, that's essentially the area that I want to potentially go long at. And what's notable is the fact that the lagging line has held this exhaustion signal. Again, we held the baseline, came back up, and again, we're pushing towards retesting this potentially over time. What looks to be a double top historically, if we're looking back to 2018, where we essentially topped out at 335. This last candle on January 13th was the second opportunity over 6 years for anybody who was long the coin to effectively exit. Again, there was a secondary opportunity the week of January 20th to potentially get out, and then since that point in time, we've just kind of been retracing. What's notable is if I put on this other indicator called absolute retracement, which is developed by Tom DeMark, and it's based off of, I would say it's based off of Fibonacci, but it has slightly more objective measures, whereby we've this 0.618 area would potentially be again another area where if I wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, that's an area that I would probably do some buying, and then put my potential stop level at this $1.94 level, because I've isolated essentially 6 cents of risk, where if I'm wrong, then that's the maximum amount I'm losing. Ultimately, I would much rather be putting on initiating new positions at $1.94, with the potential of scaling in over time. So it's notable. I like the fact that MACD is also still bullish, but the divergence is narrowing. So, it's notable. And what's also interesting is we potentially have a head and shoulders pattern, which is bearish. So that's also another reason why I would much rather put on a new position at $1.94 versus at current levels. Okay, so let's take a look at Sui-Coin. So I've been watching, reading a lot of posts on X, and people comparing different coins and why they want to be buying one versus the other. And for some reason, I've just been noticing people have on all of these ads, they've been saying, "Oh, I want, I would rather buy Sui than all of these other different coins." So um, I'm taking a look at it just from being more curious than actually owning it at the current point in time. And when I look at the coin, there's nothing here that um, makes me feel like I need to own the coin at this point in time. This nine signal right here was perfection in terms of knowing when to get out. Yes, from here we ultimately went up 2 more weeks, but that was the signal for you to potentially exit your longs or start to potentially initiate shorts should your platform allow you to. And again, this 13 signal right here uh, was valid in terms of potentially exiting, because 2 weeks later um, we got some follow through to the downside. Again, this 9 signal right here was an excellent opportunity for you to exit um, position at that point in time, because you suffered almost a dollar of drawdown since that point in time. So, I believe I would not be putting on new positions at this point in time, um, mainly because we're on a -4 of 9 count. What's notable is the fact that we've held this baseline, but the fact that we have negative divergence on MACD, or at least bearish momentum in the MACD right now. Yes, we've bounced temporarily, but I do believe we need to complete this count to a 9 um, before any substantial buying kind of comes through. And if I use if I use absolute retracement, which is where potentially price could potentially get down to. Excuse me. Yeah, so for me, it wouldn't be the right time for me, for anybody to want to own the coin at this point in time, because you're potentially on your way back down to potentially this $2.28 level, but I guess more shorter term to this $2.75 level, which I'm anticipating will happen sooner rather than later. Um, just because any buying has just been filled with significant selling pressure. I mean, just look at these candles. Like, this does not look healthy in terms of overall price action. This looks like institutions selling over the past number of weeks, and uh, we've had significant gains since middle of October. And again, you had opportunities to potentially scale out, which the DeMark indicators identified in real time those points in time. So I think we essentially retrace all the way down to this $1.60 level, and that's just my own thoughts. So I wouldn't be buying I wouldn't be buying Sui. If anything, I would actually be shorting Sui um, on any significant bounces. And for me, that $3.63 level would be an ideal area to go short Sui. Like I said, there's a reason why the Bitcoin dominance chart is the way that it is, because um, it's a bloodbath out there for a lot of these altcoins, and Bitcoin represents safety. Bitcoin is a safe haven asset in the crypto market space, because it's the largest, the most valuable, the one with the most significant backing and utility, and the market indicators are showing that that's the case. So I would not be touching Sui at this point in time. Okay, last but not least, let's take a look at Trump. Uh, so, the coin just came out about a month ago, and there's not really much price activity. So I really have to look at this more on a smaller time frame. The daily, like I said, there's only about 30 days of trading activity, and we have one -9 signal, which wasn't effective or wasn't um, wasn't the signal to go long, and I'll show you exactly why. Again, I can't necessarily use the Ichimoku clouds on this time frame because we don't have enough um, data. So let's just take a look at this on the 4-hour time frame where I might get a little bit more information. And because of how volatile the coin has been, I have to use the log scale to capture the wide price range and just make it a little bit more meaningful. So, so the coin, it released January 18th. You had that big spike for 3 days. Excuse me, for what was essentially 2 days before you ultimately got that massive rug pull. And that's usually just insider selling. Whoever owned the coin pre-launch, that was basically their opportunity to capitalize on the momentum and the foolishness of all of these buyers coming in. So there's been nothing bullish about the coin since inception. We've just been tailing off. The Ichimoku clouds, again, haven't shown anything of significance that would make me want to step in and be a buyer. Even this 13th signal down here on January 30th wasn't the signal for you to go long because we were below the conversion line. We were below the baseline, so there was significant resistance above here. Yes, you potentially got back to the conversion line, but after that point in time, it was just continuing to trail off. And this has literally been the rug pull by a president and his associates since the coin was released, and their gain is your loss. So me personally, I wouldn't be buying this coin just because of how much damage has been done recently. What's notable for me is this this area down here. Whether you're looking at the sequential or the combo indicator, that was potentially an area to start looking to go bullish because price, one, it started to exceed the conversion line, which is good, which is potentially an indication that there might be a turning point. But again, we established some resistance here at the baseline, in which case we had to come back down. What I do like afterwards, which it essentially had to take several more days from this 13 candle, but this area right here, which is the bearish momentum level, we ultimately seen price start to creep back above it, and that was essentially once we effectively cleared this bearish momentum level of 1582. Now we're starting to see current price, which is just in the lagging line, which is current price projected 26 periods into the past. We started to see this price push through these two resistance levels, and now we're within the cloud. So we could potentially continue to play in here for what I'm anticipating is for probably another week or so. in which case, at which point in time we may start to potentially play with this area over here. And if we close above, if price closes above this, the top of the cloud, then I could potentially say, okay, it's time to start looking to get long the coin, because now you have price, which is current price, which is above the current cloud, which is now acting as major support, and the fact that it's flat will again suggest to me that this is a good area to potentially get long the coin, because you have a significant area of support happening at this point in time. Oh, sorry guys. So I'm looking at this for the potential to possibly go long, but I'm not looking to hold this for any particular long period of time, because of the fact that overall the trend has just been complete crap. And I suspect that over the long term, this coin will retest the most recent lows, and then at that point in time, we'll have to determine if we want to go long the coin again, or if this is going to go to complete. If this is just going to go to the woodshed and become a 1 cent stock, so or coin, excuse me. So something that I'm watching for, if we come back to this $17.52 area, I would actually do some short-term buying with the potential for us to play to this $20 range. So you get a $3 gain, which is quite significant, considering that this is just an $18 stock, an $18 coin. So I'm watching it, but I won't be in it for very long. And when that time comes, I'll let you guys know. All right, so that's a quick update in terms of the crypto market. We're overall, I still want to continue to remain bullish Bitcoin. The dominance chart suggests that that's where you want to be in terms of protecting capital, preserving capital. Some of these other altcoins, they're not really doing very well, and until we see otherwise, you want to, at the very minimum, not own these altcoins for the long term. If anything, they're just tactical trades and really short term in nature, and you really have to be good in terms of setting your entry prices and putting your stops, because you could potentially get taken out quite quickly otherwise. Okay, that's it. Thanks everybody for watching today's video. Hit that like button, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if there's anything, any other coins that you want me to take a look at. I tried to give a flavor in terms of the major coins and a few of the altcoins, but for the time being, I continue to be bullish Ethereum and Bitcoin, and that's about it. I will probably try to put another video out middle of this week, especially since that tomorrow is a trading holiday in the US. So I'm anticipating that we may get a little bit more activity in the crypto space, just because we have all these degenerates that are just fiending for trading activity. So we'll see how things go. Wednesday's probably another day that I'll probably put another video out. Okay, thanks everybody. Millennial Trader out.